I stood in the kitchen, still wrapped in the fog of sleep, my fingers curling around the steaming mug of coffee. The aroma was rich and bittersweet, a familiar comfort that contrasted with the chaos brewing in my mind. I was 27, a freelance graphic designer, and still grappling with the remnants of a restless night. My name is Ryan Mitchell, and at this moment, I was half awake, still in my gym shorts from last night's workout. The morning sun poured through the window, casting warm, golden light across the counters and illuminating the small space I called home. The kitchen was modest, with white cabinets that had begun to show their age, their paint chipped in places, and a cozy breakfast nook tucked into the corner with a view of the small garden outside. It was a space I had decorated with a few art pieces I had created, along with photos of friends and family, reminders of the life I had built in this compact sanctuary. But that morning, the usual warmth of my home felt overshadowed by the whirlwind of thoughts racing through my mind. It was a Saturday, the kind of day that should have promised peace, but my heart raced as I replayed yesterday's events. My mother's friend, Ella, had been particularly vibrant, her laughter ringing like a bell in my ears. I shook my head, trying to dispel the uninvited thoughts that lingered. Ella was 42, a whirlwind of energy and charm, with a bright smile that could light up the dullest of days. The memories of her visits filled the house, her presence always a mix of warmth and something else, something I had tried, for far too long, to ignore. As I poured the last of the coffee, my fingers trembling slightly, the kitchen door swung open. There she was, framed by the morning light, cheeks flushed and hair slightly tousled from her run. She wore a black sports bra that showcased her toned arms and a loose zip jacket that hung open, revealing the curves of her silhouette. My breath caught in my throat. Ella looked like she belonged on a magazine cover, full of life and vitality, radiating an energy that pulled at something deep within me. "Good morning, Ryan," she said with a smile, her voice soft yet teasing, as she stepped inside without invitation. It was her house too, in a way. She was my mother's friend, after all, and she had dropped by many times. But today felt different, unscripted. "Morning," I managed, forcing a casual tone into my voice. I turned back to the coffee maker, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy. The clinking of the ceramic mug against the counter echoed in the quiet room, punctuating the tension that seemed to hang in the air. She moved closer, her eyes not leaving me as she reached for my mug. I watched, frozen, as she lifted it to her lips, taking a sip without asking. Her gaze locked onto mine over the rim. Good coffee," she remarked, her smile widening. "You've become hard to ignore, you know that?" The words hung between us like a taut wire, vibrating with unspoken implications. I felt the heat rush to my face, an involuntary reaction I couldn't suppress. I'm just keeping up with work," I stammered, searching for a safe response. But there was an undeniable intensity in her eyes, a challenge that stirred something restless inside me. She stepped past me, brushing against my shoulder as she moved, the contact electric and lingering. I could feel the warmth radiating from her body, the scent of her sweat mingling with the coffee aroma, creating a heady mix that sent my heart racing. I took a step back, trying to create space, yet the very act felt like an invitation to bridge the distance. "Really?" she said, turning to face me, her expression teasing yet serious. "You've grown taller, stronger, more confident. I remember when you used to flinch at the smallest things. Now you hardly react. What happened?" "I guess life just happens," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. I felt exposed under her scrutiny, like a book open to a page I didn't want her to read. Ella took a step closer, her presence overwhelming. "Maybe you're just learning how to stand your ground." Her eyes sparkled mischievously, yet there was a deeper undertone lacing her words. "Or maybe you just enjoy the view more now." The air thickened, and I held my breath, caught in a moment that felt suspended in time. I should have stepped away, should have said something to break the tension, but my body remained rooted. The kitchen, once a safe haven of solitude, transformed into a stage where the boundaries between us blurred. "Are you saying I'm hard to ignore?" I asked, trying to deflect with humor, but it came out more breathless than I intended. She chuckled softly, leaning against the counter, tilting her head slightly. "You know what I mean. You're not the shy kid I used to know. You're a man now." The way she said it made my pulse quicken, the weight of her gaze anchoring me in place. Just then, the doorbell rang, shattering the fragile moment. I exhaled, the sound a mixture of relief and disappointment. Ella's expression shifted, a hint of frustration flickering across her features. "I should get that," I said, finally breaking the spell that had ensnared us. I turned and walked toward the door, my heart racing, my mind a whirlwind of confusion and desire. I opened the door to find Mrs. Henderson from next door, a cheerful smile plastered on her face. "Good morning, Ryan. Is your mom home?" she asked, oblivious to the tension that had just filled my kitchen. I nodded, summoning a polite smile. "She's not here right now, but I can take a message." I glanced back toward Ella, who had taken a step back, her gaze falling to the floor, a slight flush creeping up her cheeks. "Oh, that's all right. Just let her know I stopped by to borrow some sugar," Mrs. Henderson chirped, oblivious to the undercurrent flowing between us. I nodded again, forcing the smile to remain on my lips as I closed the door. Ella stood there, arms crossed, her eyes narrowed in contemplation. "You know, it's funny how quickly the mood can shift," she said, her voice low, almost conspiratorial. I cleared my throat, feeling the weight of her gaze. "Yeah, it is. I didn't mean to make things awkward," she said, her tone softening. I've seen you grow up, and there's something about you now that's different, more intriguing." "Maybe it's just the coffee," I replied, trying to lighten the atmosphere, but it fell flat. She stepped closer again, her presence consuming the space between us. "Maybe it's more than that," she offered, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're not the only one who's noticed." My heart raced as I processed her words. The air crackled with tension, and I felt a sudden urge to close the distance further, to explore the connection that had been simmering just below the surface for so long. But fear gripped me. The implications were staggering. What would it mean for our lives? "Ella?" I started, but the words caught in my throat. "Just hear me out," she interrupted, her eyes piercing through the fog of uncertainty. "I know it's complicated, but sometimes the most unexpected connections can lead to the best things in life." I wanted to argue, to remind her of the boundaries that existed, but the way she looked at me, with a mixture of vulnerability and determination, made it hard to think straight. "Maybe we should just keep things the way they are," I suggested, my voice trembling slightly. "You're my mom's friend. It's complicated." "Complicated doesn't mean impossible," she countered, her voice steady. "And if you're really not interested, then just tell me to back off." I hesitated, my heart pounding in my chest. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me, the decision looming before me like a precipice. "I don't want to hurt anyone," I finally said, the truth spilling out with my admission. "Neither do I," she replied softly, stepping back, her expression shifting from determination to something more subdued. "But sometimes we have to take risks. Life is too short to live in fear of what could be." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I could see the hope flickering in her eyes, the desire for something more. But the stakes were too high. I could feel the weight of my mother's friendship with her pressing down on my conscience, a reminder of the fragile lines we walked. "I don't know, Ella," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "This feels like a lot to risk." She nodded, a flash of disappointment crossing her face, but there was also understanding. "I get it. I do. Just think about it." With that, she turned and walked toward the door, leaving me standing there, a storm of emotions swirling within me. As she stepped outside, I felt the chill of the morning air rush in, filling the space she had just occupied. The warmth that had enveloped me moments before now felt like a distant memory. I closed the door slowly, pressing my back against it as I tried to gather my thoughts. The coffee on the counter had gone cold, forgotten. I felt disoriented, caught between the past and an uncertain future. The day stretched ahead, full of possibilities and unspoken questions. I could feel the weight of Ella's words echoing in my mind, a challenge that lingered like a ghost. I wondered if I could truly ignore the connection that had sparked between us. As the morning wore on, I contemplated her invitation to take a risk, to step into the unknown. The idea terrified me, but there was also a flicker of excitement, an uncharted path that beckoned me, filled with potential and danger alike. Sitting at my kitchen table, I tried to distract myself with work. I opened my laptop, the screen illuminating my face in the dim light of the room. My design projects, logos, flyers, and illustrations, flooded my mind, but my focus was shattered. Instead of diving into the creative flow, my thoughts drifted back to Ella, her laughter, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke, and the subtle yet undeniable chemistry that sparked between us like electricity in the air. I closed my eyes, and suddenly I was back in that moment. The way she had looked at me, the challenge in her voice, the warmth of her body brushing against mine. It all played in vivid color behind my eyelids. But the reality of our situation brought me back to earth, a heavy weight settling in my chest. She was my mother's friend. This was a line I had never considered crossing. But as the hours passed, my resolve began to waver. I found myself imagining what it would be like to take that leap, to explore the uncharted territory of our relationship. What would it mean to embrace the tension, to see where it could lead us? The thought was intoxicating, and the more I entertained it, the more I craved the possibility. The sun climbed higher in the sky, and soon afternoon light flooded the kitchen. I stood up, pacing the small space as I wrestled with my thoughts. I opened the sliding door that led to the garden, letting the fresh air spill inside. The vibrant colors of the flowers outside seemed to mirror my internal turmoil, blooming with potential and beauty. Could I really push past the boundaries that society had set? Was I willing to risk my mother's friendship with Ella for something that could be fleeting? Yet the idea of not trying felt like a greater loss, an opportunity slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. I grabbed my phone and stared at it, my heart racing as I contemplated sending a message. Felt like a leap into the unknown. Would I be brave enough to reach out? I took a deep breath, my fingers hovering over the screen, the weight of my decision pressing down like a lead weight. Finally, I typed a simple text, my heart pounding as I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Hey Ella, I've been thinking about what you said earlier. Can we talk? The seconds felt like hours as I waited for her response. I paced the kitchen, my mind racing with every possible outcome. What if she didn't want to engage? What if she was just being polite? But deep down, I felt a flicker of hope, a desire for something more. When my phone buzzed, I nearly dropped it in my haste to read her reply. Absolutely. When and where? I felt a rush of adrenaline surge through me. This was happening. I replied quickly, suggesting a small café just down the street, a cozy place with outdoor seating that had become a favorite haunt of mine. How about in an hour? Perfect. I'll see you then. The exchange felt electric, each message charged with anticipation. I glanced at the clock, the minutes ticking down as I prepared myself for what was to come. As I dressed, I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I chose a simple, casual outfit, dark jeans and a fitted black t-shirt that hugged my frame, hoping to exude confidence as I stepped into the unknown. I made my way to the café, the sun shining brightly overhead. Each step felt heavy with possibility, my heart racing as I neared my destination. The familiar scent of coffee and baked goods wafted through the air as I entered, my nerves tingling with every heartbeat. I spotted Ella sitting outside, her hair catching the sun in a halo of golden light. She looked up as I approached, her face breaking into that radiant smile that always managed to disarm me. "Hey, Ryan," she greeted, her voice warm and inviting. "I'm glad you texted." "Yeah, me too," I replied, taking a seat across from her. The tension from earlier hung in the air, but now it felt charged with a different energy, one of possibility and uncharted territory. We exchanged small talk, but I could feel the undercurrent of our previous conversation lingering just beneath the surface. Ella seemed to sense it too, her gaze steady and searching as she sipped her coffee. "So, what's on your mind?" she finally asked, her voice low and inviting. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my thoughts crystallize into something tangible. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said earlier, about taking risks." Her eyes widened slightly, a glimmer of hope flickering in their depths. And I think I want to explore this connection between us. I don't want to ignore it anymore." The words spilled out, and as I said them, a sense of relief washed over me. It felt as though I had finally taken the leap I had been avoiding for so long. Ella's expression softened, a mixture of surprise and delight crossing her face. "Really? You mean that?" I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. "I do, but I also know this could complicate things. I don't want to hurt anyone, especially not my mom." She reached across the table, her hand brushing against mine, sending a rush of warmth through my body. "I understand, Ryan, but sometimes the best things in life come with risk. I promise we can navigate this together." Her touch lingered, and I felt the world around us fade away, leaving just the two of us in that moment, suspended in time. As we sat there, the conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter and a sense of connection that felt electric. We talked about everything and nothing, sharing stories and dreams, our barriers slowly crumbling with each exchange. By the time we finished our coffee, I felt lighter, as though a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying had been lifted. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow around us, and I could see the promise of something beautiful unfolding. "I'm glad we talked," I said, my voice steady, meeting her gaze. "I want to see where this goes." Ella smiled, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Me too, Ryan. I think we're on the verge of something amazing." As we left the cafe, a sense of possibility hung in the air, electrifying every step we took. I felt a newfound confidence surging within me, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The lines had been drawn, and I was finally ready to step beyond them. Whatever the future held, I knew I was prepared to face it head-on, hand in hand with Ella, ready to explore the uncharted territory of our connection. And in that moment, I realized that sometimes taking risks was the only way to truly live.